So today let's talk about a coward who brought the wrath of the Persians on the Greeks. And I've mentioned this guy a few times in my previous videos. He's the guy who used to be the tyrant of Miletus, the guy Aristagoras. Aristagoras, um, if you watch my previous video, is the guy who um, tried to tell the or persuaded the Persian satrap or governor who was based in Sardis, a city that was found in what we know today as Turkey. And Sardis, the Persian governor in Sardis ruled over whatever land the Persians had conquered in Europe and West Asia. So Aristogoras goes to Antiphanes, who was the satrap at that time, and he persuades him that um, he was going to, he needed his help to go and attack a certain city, Nexus. And the reason was that some guys from Nexus had come to Aristogoras and offered him money. So this guy was a coward and he was also kind of greedy. They offer him money because they wanted him to help them recapture Nexus or basically remove from power whoever was in power there and then place them in power. So they were offering to pay him money. So he goes to Antiphanes and he tells him, oh, there are these guys, they are offering a lot of money. And if you agree to help me, you give me an army of Persians and I join them with my own army from Miletus. We can go to Nexus and then we do whatever these guys want us to do, and then they pay us the money and then we kind of split it. Antiphanes accepts that offer. He goes, he talks to Darius, the king of Persia, and Darius gives an okay for Antiphanes to give the army to go to Nexus alongside the Milesians. And they go, and on the way, I've told you this story in another video. The Aristogoras has a fight, kind of like a tiff, with the guy who was sent by Antiphanes to lead the Persian army. They fight over this Persian punishing one of his friends in the ships they were traveling in, and then because of that, the Persian is so angry that he sends a message to the people in Nexus, and when this group of Milesian and Persian army reach there, these people are ready for them, and the mission fails that way. And now Aristogoras has a debt to pay to Antiphanes. But he doesn't have the money because the guys from Nexus were not going to pay because whatever they were paying for was not delivered. So, but Aristogoras has to pay Antiphanes. Now he's in this mess of he has a debt to pay, he doesn't have the money. And he decides the best way to get himself out of the debt is to start a revolt against the Persians. So that's how the revolt started, even though there was also a contribution by Histiaeus, who used to be the tyrant before Aristagoras in Miletus, who was now in Susa. He had his own reason why he wanted the revolt to happen in Miletus and in Greece by and large. He wanted it to happen so that Darius would release him to come back home. So that's that. Now, Aristogoras is a coward because he starts planning for this revolt to happen. He goes to Sparta. He tries to persuade the leader of Sparta, Cleomenes, to join him in revolting. Cleomenes says no. He goes to Athens and he talks to Athenians about them joining him, and the Athenians agree. And I've told you in the previous video, the Athenians agree not because of the reasons or the persuasion that Aristogoras made, but because they also had their own reasons. There was this guy Hippias who was out there and he wanted to come back to be a tyrant of Athens, and the Persians were kind of like considering bringing him by force. So that was their reason for agreeing to join an alliance with the Milesians and Aristogoras to revolt or to resist the Persians. Now, when the Athenians agree and some other smaller city-states to make an alliance, what Aristogoras does he puts together an army, but he doesn't lead it to go attack Sardis, because that's the first place where they went to attack. And I've told you this in the previous video. He picks, I think, his brother and another citizens from Miletus to lead that army. Ideally, he should have been the one to lead the army, but he didn't want the war. He wanted the war, but he didn't want to be in the mix of it. So he sends this army to Sardis. I've told you this before. They burn down they burn down the city, and then they escape, and then on the way they are pursued by Persians. There's a battle. The Greeks lose, and the Athenians say we're no longer interested in the war, and they go back home. I've told you that before. Now, what happens after that? The Persians retaliate, and they send in a huge army to Greek city-states. They send an army to Miletus, to Athens, to other regions that had joined Aristagoras in attacking Sardis. So, and then what follows is almost all those cities fall one after the other, like they are conquered by the Persians. They fall. Now, Aristogoras sees what's happening. The Persians are not yet have not arrived in Miletus, but they are on the way coming, and he knows about it. And instead of him staying and organizing the citizens to oppose the Persians as they come to put together his army for that combat, what does Aristogoras do? He decides he wants to escape, and he starts talking to some of his advisors, asking them which part is the best to go to, and finally decides to go to a city called Messina, which was given to Histiaeus by Darius earlier on. So he puts things in order, and he picks a citizen known as Pythagoras. He picks Pythagoras, and he tells him to be in charge of Miletus, and Aristogoras escapes. He goes to Messina. He goes with a small army. He disappears. He goes. Now he leaves Milesians to protect themselves. This guy goes. He goes to Messina. He does not want to face the Persians at the battlefield. He hides there, and then he does something else. He decides to now go attacking the small tribes in a region called Thrace. There were smaller tribes there. Now he was like attacking them and plundering them. That is what he decides to do. Instead of facing the Persians, he decides to go attacking these small tribes in the Thrace region. And that's how he ended up dying. He laid siege to a small town, a very small town, and I think he didn't see it as a big threat. He was kind of like a bully who was not ready to face a big army, but he would go for smaller people. So he goes to this small town, he lays siege to it, and then things turn out bad for him, because the people of the town turned out to be very ferocious, very determined to defend themselves, and they end up killing Aristogoras. So that's how Aristogoras dies. He's the guy who started the revolt against the Persians, and he brought a lot of destruction to the Greek people, especially the Greek people of the Ionia tribe. He makes the Persians be very brutal on those people, but he is the guy who doesn't go to battle against the Persians, not even once.